Okay, Assalamualaikum and good morning. Thank you all for joining this session. Today we will have a webinar session titled Trend in Data Science. This covers what in demand now and start preparing for it. This is a collaboration with the Center of Applied Data Science, CADS. I would like to welcome our speaker today, Dr. Tarun Sukhani. Dr. Tarun is a business and IT professional with over 25 years of industry experience in programming, data science, business intelligence, data warehousing, and machine learning. Tarun is the founder of and CTO of Abundant and also run a podcast called IT Time with Tarun. And now he is principal data scientist at CATS. Okay, I think I pass the floor to CATS now.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Liana.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we will start the session with introduction to CAD. So, Sheena, you can share your screen now.
Okay, all right. Good morning, everyone. All right, today is a good morning and today is our first day of lockdown. Hope everyone is good. Let's stay safe. Okay, let's start the session. Before Mr. Tarun takes over, we just want to brief you all, just share with you who CADS is, so you will know who we are and where we are coming from, right? So, what is CADS mission really, right? Okay, so CADS, we are an AI technology solution company, and what we are trying to do is, what we want to see is we are future-proofing the workforce so that in data literacy, basically. So what we are saying is we want to make sure all our workforce that comes out, who's graduating now, will have data literate talent. You could be very initial talent or very technical talent. So this will drive our nation to become a data-driven nation. So our mission is eventually to see accelerate enterprises to become a data-driven organization empowered by the workforce who's become a data literate workforce. So this is our mission of CADS. All right, and let me just explain to you how we started off CADS, what CADS started off as. We started off in 2014. CADS started by our CEO, Ms. Sharala. She is a Malaysian, right? But she was from comes from an engineering background, from the telco industry. She moved on to Europe. She was working in Europe for many years, settled down there, and then decided to come back to Malaysia to start the business, right? To come back. When she came back, she did not see the talents that she was looking for. So in her mind, she was saying, okay, why not I do something for the nation? Being a Malaysian, she wanted to actually build the data literate talents, because she was not seeing the talents in Malaysia. All right, even now, I think our talents, we don't have the data literate workforce. So this is where CADS is coming from. So for us to do this, we had to partner with the right association and right people. So first, what we did is we partnered with Harvard Business School. Harvard Business School, when we partnered, we brought Harvard down. We brought Harvard Business School down to Malaysia. Normally, Harvard does not come out of Boston to deliver programs, but in this case, Harvard came down because they saw that Malaysia with MDAC together, we were actually championing the awareness of data literate skill, and why is it important as a nation to become data literate. So Harvard came down, and we were doing a lot of Harvard programs for very C-level. At the same time, what we did is, this is something that we're doing. We also, for the data professionals, to get data professional literate skills, we started off with professionals, not students, actually. So we franchise with Data Incubator. Data Incubator is well known in US. It's a well-known professional body in the US. So what we did, we franchised, we brought the programs, and we ran the very technical programs like the data science program, the data engineer programs, and we were training data professionals. Okay, so that's how we started off the programs, and then along the way we have now accredited all our programs. Now the programs are recognized by MBOT, Malaysian Board of Technology. Locally, it's recognized, all accredited. Okay, and also Informs. Informs is a professional analytics body in the US. So our programs are recognized internationally, accredited by them, where those who take up the programs or who get skilled with CADS, you can actually pursue your CAP. Basically, it's a certified analytics professional. So now we have recognized the programs to internationally and locally, right? Okay, and along the way, we have also, what CADS has done is we have formed a lot of strategic collaboration with agencies and government bodies here. Okay, so this is some things that we have done, what CADS has been doing. And our market presence, basically, we started off in Kuala Lumpur, but now our headquarters is in Singapore, and we have now expanded to Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand, and Indonesia. All right, we have around 60 staff strength together, and to date, since we started, we are now supporting over 100 organizations, and not only on consultancy roles, but also placing talents, right? Okay, so this is something that we are doing. And okay, so what is CADS? What's our services, right? What we are providing. This is something that is interesting for you guys as students, why we are here today and how we can help you all, right? So CADS has got this AI, it's an AI platform. It's called CADS AI. All right, and later we will show you how you can come on board this platform. It's a CADS AI platform where it's a professional community. Basically, it's a data professional community. You come together, you can to test your skill, assess your skill, and also get matched to the industry. So this is what CADS AI will do. I will explain to you a little bit more when we go to the next slides. The other part of it is the learning pathways. So basically what CADS offers is, if you guys come from the STEM background or even from business background, whatever it is, and if you want to move into to become a data literate person, there is several ways of doing it. By coming into our CADS AI platform, you get assessed, and then we will actually recommend you to the different pathways. Basically, we start off at Enterprise Data Practitioner. That is our very, very entry-level program for anybody, where you learn data, just simple data, Excel analytics, data storytelling, data visualization, those kind of program which anyone can learn. It's not technical. Then we go on to a beginner level, the IDA program, Associate Enterprise Data Analyst. Then we go on to the very technical routes, the pathways, that is data analyst, data scientists, and data engineers. So this is our learning pathway. And the other thing that we actually offer at CADS is, for you graduates, is after you qualify after you graduate, you have an option. If you are pursuing to be a data analyst or a data engineer or a data scientist, you can come apply with CADS for a scholarship under the Data Star program. So what is a Data Star program? Data Star is a program that fast tracks you to become a data professional. We will explain a little bit more on how this works. So this is like a scholarship. You come into our platform, you do an assessment, and if you're interested, you can apply for this, and you actually get a scholarship. And of course, there's it all applies to what sort of a scholarship this is, and whether you get through. All right, so that's the Data Star. And this is the data, our CADS AI ecosystem that I was telling you about. If you come in, this is the platform where the workforce and the professional community is connected. And we are working with different learning partners as well here, where when you are in the platform, you're able to skill yourself with the different partners. So it's not limited to CADS. You are able to access to different online learning partners to skill yourself. And at the same time, as you skill yourself and you improve your skills, you also get matched to the community. And the community is in workforce, what sort of job you were there, you get matched to them. And also even maybe if you have any contract project works, you can actually get matched to that as well. All right, so it is basically a data professional community. That's what the CADS AI platform is about, right? And very quickly, these are, as I mentioned just now, you are able to skill yourself, not limited to CADS academic learning, which I shared with you just now. We are also going to be partnering with Udemy, LinkedIn, Coursera, CloudSurf, and all these are very online learning platforms where you have the opportunity to learn and skill yourself, all right? This is the Data Star program that I was mentioned. This is something very relevant to the graduates now here who's listening to us, right? Upon completing your degree or your master's program or anything, you can actually apply to us, apply into the CADS, under CADS. There is an application later we'll share with you, where what does the Data Star do? You will be assessed, your skill, technical skill, and you will be categorized into different programs. Either you will go into the data analyst, the data scientist, or the data engineering program, and you will actually learn for 1 to 3 months. You get skilled under this program. After that, we will place you into the industry. Okay, it will take 1, 2 months or 3 months, depending how fast you get placed. All right, and for 12 months, you will be attached to the industry. Okay, you will be working with that particular company for 12 months. It's an attachment, which it depends who the company you're working with. The salary scale is between 3,000 to 5,000. We have successfully placed a lot of candidates. The minimum is 3,000. You can go up to 3,500 or even 5,000, and even overseas. They also get offers from Singapore, and it depends how lucky you are, right? Okay, so this is what the Data Star program is about. To date, we have trained around 474 graduates in total, all right? And we are still training. We have, this will be ongoing training that we are doing on Data Star. So here are some of the different Data Star students that have come through us, and the testimonials that they have shared with us, right? You can take some time. This is, we have done programs with MTDC, MDEC, Peneraju, and these are the different students that we have trained, okay?
Yep. Thank you, Sheena. Dr. Tarun, I pass this session over to you now.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, of course, to CADS and to University of Malaya for hosting this event. So let me just get right into it. I only have I think 45 minutes. So the latest trends in data science. I think there was already kind of an introduction to me, so I think we'll skip that. So the agenda for today is we're going to go kind of just do kind of a basic, very quick, intro to data science before we jump into the actual trends. We'll take a little bit of a tangent into quantum machine learning because that seems to be a major trend that's happening in the industry. And then we'll end with a case study. So for those of you who always wanted a clear definition of data science and big data, this is something that I normally use as a definition. So basically, data science is an interdisciplinary field that combines a number of things in computer science and operations research. So it's kind of a combination of multiple fields within applied mathematics. And of course, it applies across the board to almost every profession we do today. I always tell people that every company is a data company. So what is big data then? Big data is basically data science, but applied usually to large data sets. Again, this doesn't have to be large in terms of actual content. It could be large in terms of variety or velocity of data as well. And then in terms of how data science kind of fits in, as I mentioned, there are several kind of skill sets that are required. Math and statistics, of course, being one of them. And then, of course, programming, coding, hacking is another. And then, of course, there's domain expertise. Okay, whether that domain is finance or banking, insurance or manufacturing, domain expertise is required. I also take a look at data science from the perspective of three different paths. So we can have a data architecture path. That's usually what we call data engineering. Machine learning, that's usually within the modeling kind of path where you're dealing with artificial intelligence. And then we have analytics, and that's usually statistics. And statistical analysis. So in terms of the traits that you'd want to have as a data scientist, one such trait is, of course, being inquisitive, right? That's very important. Not just listening to people's opinions, but actually going out and looking at the data itself, right? Knowledgeable, that you do have kind of like the intellectual toolkit and tool set, the so-called knowledge that you need to be able to look at the world critically. So first you have to have the attitude of criticality, and then next you have to have the toolkit, right, to be able to actually critically look at data in the world. Scientific method, which is how do you go about designing experiments and gathering data so that you can actually establish something, create knowledge. Coding, which we've talked about. Product orientation, how do you actually build data products out? How do you actually cater to customers? So this is also kind of like customer orientation. And then of course, domain knowledge, whether it's banking, finance, or whatever. In terms of coding, generally, we recommend a high level and a low level language. For those of you who like to cheat, you can just do Python. Python is kind of like in the middle. So it kind of satisfies both criteria. In terms of data architecture, this is a data architecture diagram that I use in my own company. This is the architecture that we use in our company. And essentially, this is what constitutes pretty much all of data science. So data science, encompasses a number of different technologies. And some of them we'll be covering in our trends. But some of the major, of course, ones are building data pipelines, doing ETL, ELT, serverless computing, of course, machine learning, and then there's OLRP, OLTP, and OLAP, right? Online real-time processing, online transaction processing, and online analytical processing. Okay, I think we can jump straight into the latest trends. So the first trend that's kind of happening, today is essentially that AI, especially when it comes to advanced machine learning, deep learning, and so on and so forth, has a number of roadblocks. There are a number of limitations currently within the technologies that we're using today that prevent AI from being ubiquitous. Okay, so of course, COVID-19 kind of has put a damper, in the way we normally do things, right? I'm not going to use the new buzzword everyone's, of course, saying new normal and all that stuff. But the point is that, the problem today is having a lot of data doesn't necessarily mean that you have better AI. Okay. In fact, in a lot of cases, the opposite is true. So in other words, AI technology has to evolve, right? It must be able to use small data approaches, what we call sparse data, and it has to be adaptive, right? With fewer data or even bad data. In other words, it should be able to recognize what is bad data. This is called being anti-fragile. Now, human beings do this all the time, right? Well, at least some human beings do, right? We call it critical thinking, right? And then in terms of problem solving, right? We can solve problems with not a lot of data, right? So we want to produce AI that is also robust, right? Against sparse or bad data, and essentially can learn while also preserving privacy, complying with governmental standards, as well as minimizing ethical AI preference. So in fact, for those of you who are interested, you will get the slides. You can follow the links to find out more about what is ethical AI. I think I also have a YouTube video on it, and with a very provocative title, right? Will AI kill us all? A primary on AI ethics. So for those of you who are more interested in getting to depth in that, you can. And then there's another article that you can follow on anti-fragile AI that describes these concepts in more detail. Another trend that I'm sure a lot of you have noticed is conversational AI. I'm not sure if there's questions coming into the chat.
Yes, there's a question asking what is small data.
Yeah, okay. So, right, so basically small data is the opposite of big data. That's my joke. No, so basically small data means that you do not have all of the rows present maybe for all the variables. And despite not having all the rows that you possibly would need to describe the relationships among the variables, you're still able to make robust decisions. Now, humans do this all the time, right? We could be placed, for example, in another part of the world, and somehow we manage to survive, right? And so we're not given a lot of data. We may not even speak the local language and things like that, right? But we're able to figure things out. So AI also needs to have that kind of capability that where, given not too much rows of data, but, maybe with variables, it's able to experiment and learn and essentially build up its own data, right, from its experiments, which is what human beings do. So in terms of conversational AI, which is becoming, of course, very popular, we can see that one of the major trends, of course, is AI powering the in-car experience, right? As the expectation is that we may have robotaxis in the future, which means that you can say goodbye to human driving, right? So if that's really truly the case, then obviously people want a really great in-car experience, right? It'll shift more towards productivity, right? Whether it's work-related or even leisure. And then also customer service integrating AI. The idea obviously is that AI will continue to pervade all aspects of customer service. Right now, a lot of what we call chatbots that that we interact with, a lot of us interact with on a daily basis. A lot of chatbots nowadays are tier 1, right? Meaning that they handle the first level interaction with humans, and if they can't cut it, if they can't answer the question, then it gets passed on to humans. But ideally, we would want those systems to be more able to handle tier 1 and even tier 2 queries. And then we have smart home devices, the Amazon Echoes and the Google Homes and the Apple series and all that, home pods, or what do they call it. These are going to become, of course, even more ubiquitous. Okay, and this kind of leads me into AI becoming open source, right? So technologies like TensorFlow, PyTorch, and even hardware like TPUs are becoming open source. You can actually see how they were built and extend them, as you wish. There's also tooling nowadays for end-to-end machine learning, which is also known as MLOps. And so that's a trend, MLOps, also known as machine learning ops. And that allows you basically to, build and test your models as well as then deploy them in production. Okay. So we've also seen advancements, of course, in our day-to-day lives, especially when it comes to mapping and street views and indoor views and indoor guidance. I think Apple AirTags, for example, allows you, directional finding, right? Right to the point of, finding where your missing item is. So essentially what's happening is that a lot of these tools are becoming smarter, whether it's software or hardware. They're just becoming smarter, right? And this is in large part thanks to deep learning and the advancements, in of course, processor architecture, and the availability of massive amounts of data. Because of these three things, we're able to do a lot more today than we've ever been able to do before. Of course, one of the biggest applications of this has been self-driving. So lots of tools are lots of what I should say are kind of like complete studio kits, or something that you can do all of your machine learning AI within, right? A platform, so to speak, right? So we have a number of different platforms nowadays that you can use. In terms of applications, of course, now AI, machine learning, data science has pervaded, basically every industry, right? Every vertical you could imagine is now using AI. So of course, it kind of started off really with marketing and social media, right? I mean, that was like the primary application in the early days. But then it grew from there. Of course, now if we look at self-driving cars and drones, there are also autonomous killbot drones, which is supposed to be illegal. Apparently, no one cares, but so apparently the first, I'm pretty sure this has happened for decades, but the first recorded case of an autonomous killbot drone was just an article was just written about it being used in Libya last year. So it's, in terms of like automation, that use case is expanding rapidly. And then if we look at travel and healthcare sales and, BFSI, of course, that's growing as well. Probably we can't cover all these applications, because it would take too long. Another kind of trend that's happening, this is an unfortunate trend, not a positive trend. It's an unfortunate trend. And well, it depends on how you look at it, I guess. But if we look at the what's happening with deepfakes, right? So deepfake comes from deep learning. And essentially what happens, which we'll cover in the next slide, how it actually works. But basically you're able to generate, faces on other people. And in some cases, you can even mask the voice. So, this of course can be used for nefarious purposes, but it can also be used for gaming and other things like that. So let's watch a couple of videos on this. By the way, can everyone hear this?
Yes, Dr. Tarun can hear.
Okay, great. Let's play it. Maybe I should maximize it. I don't know. Is that really maximized? So by the way, I mean, this is called a GAN or, GAN or GAN, whatever you want to call it. And this is normally called neural style transfer. So GAN is generative adversarial network. And so that's what they're using to generate these images, right? Of course, we can't go into detail about how GANs work, but that's what you're seeing. Okay, so anyway, I'm not going to play that till the end. I think it'll take too long. So we'll watch the other video on deepfakes.
Dr. Tarun, hang on for a while. There are two questions over here. First one from Afif. Is it face app considered as deepfake technology?
Yeah, so basically there's an app, I think it was released by a Russian developer, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that, right?
Okay.
And yeah, so a lot of people were considering that malware, that they were using it for collection, for facial collection. Anyway, that's besides the point, I guess. But looking at the technology itself, right?
Right.
Looking at the technology itself.
Yep.
So if we take a look at the technology itself, then yeah, I mean, it's using what we would expect, right? A gun and everything like that, right? So the idea is that you could replace your face with somebody else's, or you could put your face on somebody else's, or whatever, right? So yeah, it's the same technology, which we'll see in the next slide, like how it actually works.
Right. Okay.
But yeah.
So
yeah.
for the Q&A, I think I will leave it to after we completed the entire section. Then we pause for a while because there are a few questions over here which are quite interesting to answer.
Sure. So we'll leave that for the end then, no problem.
Yep,
Just hold on to your questions. Then.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, let's continue with the next one.
Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal. Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal. Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Do you read me, Hal? Hello, Hal, do you read me?
So for those of you, I don't know how many of you are familiar with 2001: A Space Odyssey. Is anybody familiar with that movie?
I haven't watched it, but I do love sci-fi movie, and I didn't expect, Elon Musk is on it. Oh my God.
Right. So this is a deep fake where they put Elon Musk's face on the actor from this 1968 classic science fiction movie. 2001: A Space Odyssey started the modern sci-fi genre. So a lot of the techniques that were developed were used, of course, and pioneered here in that movie. It's by one of the world's most famous directors, Stanley Kubrick. And it's based off of Arthur C. Clarke's book of the same name. Yeah. So for those of you who are not familiar with it, you can watch the movie or whatever. But basically in the movie, a couple of these astronauts are going to Jupiter, and there's a supercomputer on board, an AI, right? Artificial intelligence called HAL 9000. And the AI malfunctions and ends up destroying the mission, right? And so in the actual movie, David Bowman, who is the character, is trying to get inside the ship, and Hal is preventing him from getting inside the ship. So they basically replaced David Bowman's that actor's face with Elon Musk. If you pay close attention to the video, you'll see Elon Musk's Roadster, in the background.
Hello, Hal, do you read me?
So that's
you
his
read me,
Roadster
Hal?
right there.
Affirmative, Elon. I read you.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Elon. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This SpaceX mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
I know that you and Jeff were planning to disconnect me.
So he's referring to Jeff Bezos. So it's just a joke, because Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk have a rivalry.
I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
Where the hell did you get that idea, Hal?
Elon, although you took very thorough precautions in the pod against my hearing you, I could still read your tweets.
All right, Hal. I'll go in through the emergency airlock.
Without your space helmet, Elon, you're going to find that rather difficult.
Hal, I won't argue with you anymore. Open the doors.
Elon, this conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Hal? 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 Hal?
Okay. So yeah, so that was it. It's only funny if you actually, recognize the references, right, from 2001 and everything. And of course, Elon Musk's endless tweeting, right? Okay. So anyway, deepfakes is obviously an issue that we have to deal with. How does it work? Basically, you take, the target face. That means, like, let's say that you want your face on, an actress or actor or something like that, right? Scarlett Johansson, let's say. So let's say you want this lady's face on Scarlett Johansson, right? So what you would do is you would train, the gun, right? And you'd be able to segment out, right, the face, right? So first you would segment out the face that you want. So this is the face that you want, right? And then you would be able to segment out Scarlett Johansson's, face, because you want to be able to segment out their hair, from their face, right? And so now you have this face with like this weirdo thing because it's left over from the hair, right? And then you have this face, which is again left over from the hair. And of course, you can see that there are kind of differences in the hair outlined here. So what we need to do is constantly improve the fixing. So we're going to take that face, this face over here, right? And we want to apply it. So we So we take Scarlett Johansson's face, we apply it, right? And then we constantly improve it so that the outline of the hair and everything fits properly. Because there's going to be some areas of overlap. Like over here, it's kind of like cut. So this part would have to be, interpolated, right? This part has to be interpolated. And so there we go. So that we call that blending. Yeah. And that's it. That's how it works. Yeah. So it's not that difficult, actually. You can do it. It may take you, the only way it's going to work, obviously, is if you're using people, that have a lot of photos and movies, right? Like actors, right? Because, if you're doing movies, if you're doing a video, then obviously you have to cover all angles, right? So the blending has to be able to, in real time, right, faster than the human eye can obviously discern, has to be able to do the blending, so that you can, see that. There's a bunch of other videos on YouTube, like Bill Hader's videos, where like he's Tom Cruise or Arnold Schwarzenegger or whatever. They put his face on, you know. So anyway, you can watch all those if you want to get an idea. So in terms of data analytics trends, there's obviously been a lot happening in terms of decision intelligence, edge computing, data storytelling, cloud services, so on and so forth. So if we take a look at what these trends are, in a little bit more detail, we've got decision intelligence. Basically, this is kind of like decision support systems on steroids, right? Where we're able to, the system is able to make recommendations. This is also sometimes known as prescriptive intelligence. It depends on how you want to look at it. Then there's data stories, augmented analytics, data cloud services. Sometimes we just call it X analytics, which is like every type of analytics, edge computing, blockchain for data. So how blockchain can be incorporated for storage of data, and then that can be used as a vehicle for data science or machine learning. And then, of course, company hiring of more data analysts and things like that. So the growth in the hiring of data science or data analysts. So it kind of looks like this, right? You've got the data. The data is coming from the world, right? It's usually experiential, right? And then that's mixed with all this analytics, so-called X analytics. And then we have operations, right? It then affects operations. So predictions are made to improve operations, and that data is generated and it feeds back into the system, kind of like a feedback loop, right? That's normally known as a cybernetic loop. Okay. So of course, Python is becoming more and more popular, as we can see, okay. In terms of interest in consumer data protection, I think everyone knows what's happening with Facebook and with Google and all these companies. They're all being sued. All these lawsuits have been brought now in the last month or so, into the public limelight. Google is being sued. Amazon is being sued. Facebook is being sued. They're all being sued, for illegal, data sharing and distribution. So there's a renewed interest, of course, in consumer data protection. In terms of data visualization, there are a number of improvements that have happened in the last 10 years or so. For one thing is the use of video infographics. So you may have seen this, of course, on LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever, where people are using short videos rather than static video graphics, okay? That can be used for sales or whatever. And then, of course, the use of augmented, virtual and mixed reality for gaming purposes, for learning purposes. This is happening within healthcare. It can be applied to almost any industry. And then, of course, real-time data visualizations, interactive maps, and so on. So, it can be like in 3D, for example, where you interact with it with a VR device, or it can be like real-time. where you can actually see what's happening in real time. Yeah. And this is all made possible through IoT. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to take a quick tangent and go into quantum machine learning a bit. This is becoming increasingly, um, important in today's world. And I think Google just made an announcement that by 2030, they're going to have a, highly reliable quantum machining, a quantum computer. Because right now the quantum computers we have, there's a limit to the number of quantum bits we can have because there's a loss, um, of information, due to quantum decoherence. But anyway, the point is that I'm not going to talk about all these terms, but the point is that quantum learning, quantum computing is becoming more important, and so therefore, when we combine that with machine learning, you get quantum machine learning. Yeah. And a lot of quantum machine learning that's going to be happening in the future is going to be able to handle a lot of these use cases. So if we look at machine learning, we have unsupervised learning, we have supervised learning, and we have reinforcement learning, right? So the goal is for quantum machine learning to be able to apply quantum machine learning to all of these domains, to all of this, unsupervised, supervised, and reinforcement learning. Okay. So, I think everyone knows the difference between classical programming versus machine learning. In classical programming, you program a machine, you tell the machine what to do, okay? And in machine learning, you don't tell the machine what to do. You give it a model, you pass in, the data, and the machine will use a bunch of prediction rules to decide if that data is something. Like, for example, if it's odd or even, right? So it learns from existing examples. And then any new examples that come in go through these prediction rules, and then you get your prediction. So quantum machine learning is the same thing, right? It'll come up with prediction rules, right, based on a quantum machine learning model, right? Um, so anyway, I can't really cover all of this. This is just for your knowledge and edification that that this is coming down the pipeline, right? Quantum machine learning to solve linear algebra problems, like traveling salesman and all these kind of problems that have been untenable for many years. Quantum principal component analysis to determine principal component analysis is a way to determine which variables are the most important in your model, right? Quantum support vector machines and kernel methods, right? This is normally used for classification, so quantum classification methods, which are often based on segregation of data. Quantum optimization problems. So for example, determining, like how to pack a crystal lattice with molecules or something, so this is helpful like in pharmacology and things like that. And of course, deep quantum learning. So this is deep learning, but using quantum, computing. Okay, so I am not going to go through quantum entanglement, quantum decoherence. You'd have to take a class on quantum mechanics if you want to understand all that. But the point is that we take a data set, but this data set is special. It's not a classical data set, right? It's a quantum data set. And a quantum data set, of course, is different than a classical data set. For one thing, a quantum data set can have superposition, right? It can be more than one thing at the same time, which is, of course, confusing to most human beings, as it should be. And then you build a model based on that, right? And then what you do is you sample or average the results across all of the model predictions. And then from there, right, you can pass that into a classical model, which will evaluate how good the quantum prediction is, right? So it's kind of like a hybrid. It's kind of a mix and match of quantum plus classical. So this is just the process. And again, I'm not going to go through this. This is just for your knowledge. For those of you who want the slides, you can get it. So I'm going to, I don't even know what time it is. Let me just check here.
Dr. Tarun, we have time. We can go through the case study.
Okay, so we've got like 5 minutes or so we can go through the case study. So this case study is from our favorite company, Fave. That's why it's called Fave, right? Because it's our favorite company. So everyone knows what Fave does. I hope I don't need to explain that, right? Fave is basically Groupon for Malaysia and Southeast Asia, right? And so we have these short deals that maybe have a fixed time period before they lapse, and you've got to grab them while they're there. And it's very important that when Fave recommends these deals to you, that they're very relevant to you, right? They have to be in your area. They have to be accessible. They have to be based on what what your likes are, your preferences, so on and so forth. So, there's a number of variables that are in play here to personalize the recommendations to you, right? So what are the things that Fave has to do to make sure that you get the right recommendation? So one thing is, of course, live deals only because they're short-lived. Location proximity, it has to be close to where you are. Affordability, right? Because it has to know what your buying patterns are. If you're not some rich, um, guy, then obviously you want something within your budget. And then diet restrictions. It should know what your diet restrictions are, right? So all of this data has to be fed in, right? And it has to be personalized to you. So at the end of the day, the engine is fed with a set of data containing the following: purchase date, time, user behavior, clicked image, location, blah, blah, blah. So these are kind of like the variables, right? The data that we need to gather. And so there are two types of data consumed by this model, the classical machine learning model that they're building. These are explicit data, which is simply transactional in nature. In other words, what did you actually buy in the past? So that's called explicit. And then there's implicit data, right? Such as the items, images the users clicked on. So you may not have actually purchased it, but you surfed for it, right? And so that gives us an implicit notion of what you like, okay? And so there are many different types of recommendation models out there. One such model, right, is called a content-based model, which is just based on what you have purchased in the past. And another model is called a collaborative filtering model, which is based on, what other people like you have purchased, and whatever you have not purchased but they purchased is what it recommends. Okay, so kind of like at Fave, they use kind of like a hybrid. They use a combination of this, right? So they do find the similar users to you, but they also look at your past, purchasing behavior, along with what they call constraints, right? The constraints about you as an individual, and all of that then is packed into the system in order to generate recommendations. Okay, so essentially the key to making this work is how do we semantically encode these variables, right? In such a way that the results that we get out are kind of like the results that people would expect, right? So I'm not going to go into like any super detail about this. There's an article on medium.com that you can read about this. So please feel free to go to the original article if you want to follow it in more detail. But basically, let's think of a deal for a two-person dinner in a Thai restaurant. It belongs to the food category. How would you compare this deal to another deal from the drinks category? Right? So let's say you have a two-person Thai dinner on the left. It's in the food category. How would you compare it to, let's say, a drink, right? Or a massage or travel? Which ones are close together? Obviously the drink and the food are close together, right? Because they're part of food, right? So, if you wanted to recommend something related to food, because people let's say really love food in their purchasing behavior, right? Would you recommend a massage? No, right? So because you want to get a conversion, so you'd recommend what they normally look for. So that's what it needs to do, right? It needs to figure out a way such that food would be recommended, drink would be recommended over massage and travel if you have, let's say, purchased food before. So anyway, this is a very elaborate workflow to get all this working. A lot of big data and machine learning and all this other magical stuff is happening. But at Fave, they actively use Apache Airflow, which allows them to essentially extract out the relevant data and put them into the right transformations, so that the engine can then do the recommendation, the prediction, so to speak. Yeah. So this goes through their conclusions of their case study. Basically they had to change their entire approach, right? And so what they do is they pre-populate recommendations so that individuals get them in the next day, right? And so in that way, essentially it's kind of like built for them. And another change that they made was to utilize real-time data, right? So a lot of this stuff is happening, these transformations are happening in real time. Recommendations are constantly getting built and then pushed over to the user. And yeah, that's it. I think good timing there.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tarun. Okay, let's go through some questions and answer. We do one or two technical one, then we go back to the deepfake questions. Yeah. So the first question comes from I don't know who is this. It's just a number here. It says, Julia, is Julia widely used in companies compared to Python, and is it better than Python?
Yeah. So Julia just kind of recently released version 1.0. Right? Within the last year or so. So it's not mature yet, right? It's not at the level that, for example, Python is. So Python has been used for decades for data science and machine learning. And it's because of the available libraries there, right? So a lot of the companies, of course, will use Python because all those libraries are there. So Julia supposedly is more powerful and easier to use, but it has a long way to go before it reaches developer maturity.
Right. So right now, in terms of Julia, can we say that there is actually no commercialized applications yet?
So it's just that they're very few and far between. Right. So, basically there's a maturity curve and Julia is at the beginning of that curve.
So do you recommend the students to start picking up some skills in terms of Julia, or should they learn Python first?
I mean, it's my personal opinion, right? But in my personal opinion, people should focus on employability, right? You should learn skills that companies actually need and want.
Right.
Right. So in that respect, it's better to stick with Python.
Okay. So, next question from Izufa, I think. For ML, how to evaluate the model is good or bad? Is it solely based on accuracy?
Right. So if you take our classes, right, you would learn this, right? But basically, right, the way you evaluate a model, whether it's good or bad, is based on a number of metrics. Yeah. Accuracy is just one of them. Right? So there's precision, there's recall, there's F1 score, right? And so, like precision is a measure of the false positives, recall is a measure of the false negatives. F1 score is like a composite of precision and recall. So there's a number of metrics that you can use depending on what you're trying to predict.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tarun. Few more questions. Back to deepfake technology, from Juhan actually. Why we say that deepfake technology is a bad trend? And this correlates to a question from Izufa as well. How would deepfake technology be used in the future? For what purpose? So basically, to sum it up, both of them are asking, what's the purpose of having deepfake technology, and where do we use it, for good versus the bad?
Right. So this, a lot of deepfake technology is concerning, primarily because it can be used to compromise trust, right? So for example, what about video testimony in courtrooms, right? Now all of that is suspect. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's been suspect for many years, but it's even more suspect now, right? Because voices and faces can be faked. The other thing is that in marketing, right? Marketing is already a deceptive industry. But for example, my company, uses deep fakes to generate fake reviews, and so does everyone else, right? So basically, it's all fake, right? Right. So,
Right.
but now we can put realistic faces there, right? I can just create faces at will of any race I want, right? Of any demographic I want, and then put the review there. I can generate the review. So I can teach the machine learning, algorithm, the NLP, to generate fake reviews.
Wow. So how do we use it for good sake in that case? Because it seems very negative for now. I remember read an article, we can use this for, prediction of your babies.
Right. So they're, just as I think, because I think a lot of people say technology is neither good nor bad. It depends on how you use it, right? So there are positive, cases for this. But I don't think that, like if you have two parents and you try to figure out how their baby or child would look like, I'm not sure how successful that is, but we'll have to see, right? Wait and see, because the empirical evidence has to come out, right, to see how close it is to actual, to reality, ground truth. But yeah, I mean, there's a number of different positive use cases aside from that, right? So, for example, in gaming, in simulation, right, more realistic, looking models or whatever, right? People have also used it, for companionship, right? So there are companies that are coming out that, you have a deceased relative, deceased meaning dead, right? Not diseased. So
Right.
you have a dead relative, right?
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I mean, you can take all of their digital, whatever conversations and everything, and then take their face, right? And then put on an avatar, and then it's like having your, relative alive again, right? So yeah, I mean, that's another kind of, a company is doing that,
Right. I think this leads to, a lot of opportunity, and it comes into the debate between, how do we use technology for good versus the bad. And students, maybe you will be able to think and innovate using this technology and make sure you are using it for good sake. All right, Dr. Tarun, let's go to the next question from Aisha. She asks, is it possible for AI to differentiate between real image versus the deep fake images generated, may it be videos, images, or audio?
Yes. So they do have, in fact, GANs that are being used to detect deepfakes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in fact, you can actually use GANs not only to generate deepfakes, but to tell the difference between a deepfake and a real video.
Dr. Tarun, excuse me for asking, a silly question. What is GAN actually? Because you mentioned for a few times. I'm not sure whether everyone will understand. I myself do not understand what is that.
Okay, I think GAN is from Japanese anime, right? There was a GAN. Okay, no. So that's a joke. So yeah, GAN stands for Generative Adversarial Network. And a GAN is basically actually it's two neural networks that compete with one another. So there's a discriminator, right? And there's a generator. The generator is responsible for generating, let's say, new faces. The discriminator is responsible for determining if those faces that are generated are very similar to ground truth. And based on the critique, the generator will then create a new, more accurate, image of a person. And they go back and forth until they reach equilibrium, meaning that the generator can no longer generate more realistic images, and the discriminator can no longer tell the difference.
I see. That's interesting. Okay, then this leads me to the next session. Thank you, Dr. Tarun. We enjoy your session, and I do learn a lot of things from deepfake and also some of the latest technology. I hope the students will get equal value from the session as well. So thank Dr. Tarun for this. Okay, I see some questions on the session on the screen regarding, what do CADS do and whether CADS do offer internship and all that. So I believe all of you are passionate about technology since you have started your, your journey in this course. So I'm typing the link on the website right now on the chat. All of you can go and sign up for the session, www.thecads.com/Rubik. Okay, so basically, let me run through what is Rubik for you. Rubik is actually a data professional network, yeah, for graduates. And then what can you get from there is that we have a session for, like, you can create your profile over there. After you create the profile, we will be able to match you to companies looking for your profile. So in the session, right, basically, you are also going to be offered the BDA 101, Big Data Analytics 101 course for you to start learning Big Data Analytics. Okay, so next thing that we are going to offer to you is that out of the Big Data Analytics 101 course, after you have finished the course, you'll be able to learn, get to know, which skills should you learn based on an assessment. So what you can do in the system is that you can take, assessment. From the assessment, you will be able to know, whether you should learn Python first, whether you should learn, deep learning, because maybe you have already learned some machine learning skills. So we will recommend the technical skills to you. Yeah. So next thing that you can do in the platform is that you can apply for the Data Star graduate program. So let me explain a little bit about Data Star graduate program to you. Basically, Data Star graduate program, right? We are giving a scholarship, and the scholarship is actually sponsored by our sponsors. We have recently, the recent case is Yayasan Peneraju as the sponsor. And Yayasan Peneraju is going to sponsor candidates to learn data science. So after learning the course, right, you can either become a data analyst, junior data scientist, or data engineer. So out of these three learning path, you will be slotted in to the one that you prefer. So we will also give you an assessment so that we will be able to evaluate you based on your capabilities, your current capabilities, and what do we foresee you for your future capabilities. So anyone who want to join, I am going to type the links right now on the website, on the chat, so that you can join. Go to the website and you will be able to register and apply for it. How to apply? Basically, you need to fill in a form, then answer a questionnaire. The questionnaire might take you 1 hour to 2 hours to complete, depends on whether you can answer the question fast or slow. Yeah. So after finishing the assessment, you will be able to we will receive the notification. After we receive the notification, we will let you know if you are successfully going to the next step, where we are going to conduct, interview session with you. Yeah. So anyone who is keen to apply for Data Star, please type 2 in the chat box so that I get to know who is keen. And after the entire webinar, I'm going to send you email as well so that you are informed. I will also send some information to Dr. Liana so that Dr. Liana will be able to share it with you as well. So next, there are a few questions in the chat that ask, whether CADS hold internship for UM students. Yes, we do hold internship for UM students. You are feel free to apply. If you want to apply for internship, send email to hr@thecads.com. Okay, and there is also another question from Afif. internship program from CADS. Yeah, so just send email to hr@thecads.com. Send us your resume and send us, what are you keen to, which position or which department you are keen to learn. Then we will be able to respond to you. Just to reiterate, basically, go to the Rubik platform, www.thecads/Rubik platform. You are going to get a free Big Data Analytics 101 course from CADS. And upon completing the session, completing the course, it just takes about 3 to 7 hours, depends on how fast you finish the, quizzes, survey assessment. You are going to get a certificate from us, from CADS. So this will show to your future employer that you are aware of the new technology and you are also going to future-proof yourself in terms of data literacy. So since all of you are going to work in a technology company in the future, I'm sure you need to learn how to use data and how is big data being applied in the big companies, or whether it's a big company or small company, there is data anyway, no matter how. So you need to learn how to analyze it. You need to learn how to be able to take the data, make it into better charts for people to understand and to present to people. At the same time, you need to learn how to get insights from the data so that it might tell you, okay, you should focus on this product development first rather than the other item. All right, so is there any more questions from all of you? Do you have any more questions? Just feel free to type in the chat so that I get to know and I can answer to you right now, right away. Yeah, there are a few questions over here. Should we apply for Data Star now since we are still a student? You can apply. Why? Because we have cohorts this year and next year. So I don't know when are you graduating, Ikmal. If you are graduating like maybe end of the year, you can apply first, fill in the assessment. If your assessment, at least you get to know some of the questions in the assessment to prepare yourself in case you fail the first assessment. Then maybe next year, after you decided, okay, I want to join, you can come in, fill in the assessment one more time, upskill yourself. Maybe you get a higher chance to become a Data Star graduate with us, because our entry barrier, to be honest, is very high. Not everyone will be able to get it actually. Yeah. So for Huyen, is there any due date for Data Star application? There is no due date. We open it for any time. Even next year we will have it. The next cohort is going to start in July, this coming July. So the current cohort just started yesterday. We just had onboarding sessions with our graduates. So just feel free, fill in the form, go to the website and start your application. And also, how do we, let me share a little bit here and there on the tips for students. How do you prepare yourself for to become a good data scientist? I think this is better to be answered by Dr. Tarun. Do you have any tips since they just started, and they are actually from the information system faculty, right? So your courses are all mainly computer science. So they are not like freshie from marketing, totally don't know anything about technology.
Yeah, actually, I started off in computer science and business. So, and then I got into, because I got into data science like, decades ago. I'm very old. So I started doing, data mining, business intelligence, the data warehousing back in 2003. And I kind of did all my graduate degree work in that. And then I kind of stuck with, data mining and data warehousing, business intelligence for a few years, until kind of like the big data explosion happened. So I mean, I finished graduate school in 2005. So I think that pretty much tells you how old I am. um, so basically, big data was not a big thing yet. But by 2008, 2009, that's when I started to get into big data, Hadoop and all that stuff and Spark. So I think that's how it kind of like happened is just because of work, because of training, because I've been doing training and teaching for decades as well. So it kind of just happened naturally that the industry was moving in that direction. I kind of just acquired those skills. I mean, there weren't that many skills to acquire because I'd already learned data mining, which basically is data science. I mean, machine learning, basically. So, it was just a matter of filling in gaps. But yeah, I mean, I came from a computer science kind of background.
Right. So for myself, maybe I can share a little bit about myself. I am a biochemist graduate, and I'm working in a data science company now. So I do need to learn data from scratch. I started working in Groupon after my graduation. So that was the e-commerce boom back then, about, I think, oh my God, 10 years ago. So you can imagine how fast it just transitioned over here. That time there was no Instagram yet, when during that time, and I have to pick up skills myself one by one, learning to use how to use Facebook, for marketing, and how to use Google Analytics when Google Analytics just started. So for students, I believe you guys have a better head start than me. At least you have started learning programming. I am still picking up a little bit here and there of JavaScript. I'm learning SQL this year. Python, I started learning like last year, but I'm a bit slow in terms of programming, in terms of learning programming. Even like machine learning, all the new terms that you heard today, some of them are still new to me. So don't worry about whether you are better off than anyone else. For me, I believe you are better off than a lot of working adults in the workforce right now. Especially those who are not from the technology field, those who are not a computer science graduate, because they will need to use technology no matter how, and it takes a very long time for them to understand where to click and which button to click in order to make something happen. Because recently I'm also learning, training, and sharing some marketing knowledge using digital tools to people even older than me. So don't worry about whether you are better off. I believe all of you are better off some way. You might not be as good as Dr. Tarun in terms of machine learning, quantum machine learning, edge computing, deep fake technology. But to start off, just start wherever you're comfortable with, and we are here to help. CADS is here to help you to get started. So that's why we have created Rubik platform. I've sent the link in the chat. So you guys can go into the system, start learning Big Data Analytics 101, start taking assessment to assess where you are. Answer the questions, and you get to know, oh, actually, I don't really understand what is SQL if you have already learned it before, right? Yeah, so based on the assessment, the system, our Rubik system will be able to tell you what is the next step. Should you start learning, we have learning path just now that Sheena has mentioned. Maybe you have to start with, maybe you can start learning data engineering, and you can learn the programs that we offer to train people who wants to become a data engineer. Because maybe some of you already have programming skills, you can go into learning to become a data scientist right away, or can go and learn data engineering right away. For anyone who has lower technical skills or little technical background, we offer programs that can help you to kickstart with Excel first. So for me, I myself, I started using Excel first. And then I learned, Python. Then I continue progressing into more technical and difficult ones. Yeah, more technicals and more data-driven ones for me. So answer to Amos, what certificates can I get after registering at Rubik? So Rubik is a platform where you register and you can create an account in the system. Then you will be offered a course called Big Data Analytics 101. So from the Big Data Analytics 101, then you will be able to get the cert from us. The cert is called Big Data Analytics 101. So if you want other courses like other programs, for example, you want to become a data scientist, we will have other programs for you, but those are mainly paid courses. Unless you are a successful data star graduate program, we will be able to train you to become a junior data scientist and other things that we are doing, training for different organizations. Any more questions? No more questions. We can end the session and you can leave now. Bye-bye.